14 miles upstream from a thriving steel town, a private lake sat behind an aging dam, a lake built for wealthy men to fish and sail on their days off. The people living below it had no idea it was ever a danger. Some had heard rumors the dam wasn't well maintained. Most didn't think about it at all. On May 31st, 1889, that lake stopped being a lake and became a wall of water 40 feet high, moving faster than a man could run. Johnstown, Pennsylvania, sat in a narrow river valley surrounded by hills, a booming steel and iron town of about 30,000 people, filled with immigrant families drawn by the promise of steady industrial work. It was a town used to rain and rising rivers. Flooding wasn't new here. What was new, sitting quietly above the town, out of sight, was the South Fork Dam. Built decades earlier, the dam had been bought by a private hunting and fishing club for Pittsburgh's wealthiest industrialists, men like Andrew Carnegie's business partners. To make their lake more scenic, the club had lowered the dam's height and blocked its emergency spillways with screens to keep their stocked fish from escaping. Engineers had warned more than once that the dam wasn't safe. Nobody fixed it. On May 30th, one of the heaviest rainstorms in the region's recorded history began to fall, nearly 10 inches in under 24 hours, turning creeks into rivers and rivers into floods across the entire valley. At the South Fork Clubhouse, the lake began rising fast. Workers scrambled to clear the blocked spillways and dig an emergency channel by hand, racing against water they could no longer control. A rider was sent down the valley to warn the towns below that the dam might fail. It wouldn't be the first such warning Johnstown had received over the years. Most people, tired of false alarms, didn't take it seriously. This time, it wasn't false. At around 3:10 in the afternoon, the South Fork Dam gave way entirely. 20 million tons of water emptied out of the lake in under an hour, funneling down the narrow valley toward Johnstown, picking up trees, houses, animals, rail cars, and debris from every town it passed on the way, growing larger and more violent with each mile. By the time it reached Johnstown, witnesses described the wave not as water, but as a moving wall of mud, timber, and wreckage, 40 feet high in places, arriving with almost no warning at all. It struck the town with the force of Niagara Falls. Buildings were lifted off their foundations. Entire homes, with families still inside, were carried for miles. At a stone railroad bridge on the edge of town, the debris, an entire town's worth of houses, animals, barbed wire from a wire works upstream, and hundreds of people, some still alive, piled into a massive wreckage dam. And then it caught fire. For survivors trapped in the tangled debris, the fire that followed was, for many, worse than the flood itself. More than 2,200 people died that day, one of the deadliest disasters in American history at the time. Entire families were wiped out. Some victims were never identified, some were never found at all. The flood made national headlines, and with it came a wave of public outrage. The dam's private owners, some of the wealthiest, most powerful men in the country, had known about the risk for years and done nothing. Legal efforts to hold them accountable largely failed. At the time, American law made it almost impossible to sue for this kind of negligence. Not a single member of the club was ever found legally responsible. But the disaster changed something else instead. It helped establish the American Red Cross's first major disaster relief operation, led by Clara Barton, and it became one of the defining cases still taught today in American law schools, cited as the reason modern liability law makes it far harder for the powerful to walk away from disasters they helped cause. Johnstown was rebuilt. It still stands today, a quiet town along a river that, once, without warning, turned into something else entirely. The lake above it is gone now. The dam was never repaired. What's left is a memorial, a museum, and a reminder that the most dangerous disasters aren't always the ones nature throws at us alone. Sometimes they're the ones we're warned about and choose to ignore.